think that's better. All right, and so we are being recorded. So once again, a shout out to Glenda who got us going on putting it together, and then just a shout out to Jim Paulson, just saying, hey, I got the Star Tribune. How do we help? And I kind of like those questions. The open-ended ones, I don't have answers, but that's kind of why we're here. We're going to be asking a couple questions. You're muted right now. The only time you should really unmute is when you're called on to give your take on or answer the questions that we're going to be asking. Being there's a lot of us, we're asking that you keep it under 5 minutes apiece. That'll already extend the meeting. You'll probably see me interrupt you if we're approaching or hit that 5 minute mark. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give the floor to Jim. And but before I do that, there's going to be two questions asked for sure. And then if we have time for a third, so if you're under your 5 minutes and you want to chime in on the third question, you may want to just jot these down in your head. For me, I need a piece of paper and writing things down. As I get older, I forget things. But the first question is going to be how you're feeling. And basically what I mean by that question and what we kind of are taking from that question is, over the last few weeks of what's all taken place in our city, how has that left you feeling? And just as important, possibly if not more important, basically what it's uncovered over the last hundreds of years of oppression, racism, injustices in our country. So how you feeling? Second question is, what do you want to see change? So this is your opportunity really to the players. I mean, a lot of times as coaches, we get listened to, but to the players, it's going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to say, I want to see this change, and this change. And know that it's up to us coaches then to go back to our tables within our small groups, meaning within our teams, and help you process that and help find ways to get that done. And finally, if you have enough time, what are you afraid of? Is there something out there that maybe you're afraid of? And maybe it's one of the, some of the things you've been hearing online or whatever else, or maybe the lack of change over the last hundreds of years. So what are you afraid of if you have time for that third question? So those are the three questions, and obviously we'll remind you if you forget. I do ask this, being that it is being recorded, and I may seek permission from you all. Actually, I'll seek permission from you all now. You guys can use the chat box if I have permission, that this may possibly go up on YouTube. I think it could be really cool. I mean, I haven't fully processed that yet, and obviously I need everybody's permission in order for that to happen. So if you are objecting to that, please put that in the chat box that you don't want that done, and we'll make sure that it is not done. I don't have the skills to edit you out. So the bottom line is, but I just think it'll be another great opportunity for more people to hear and invite others, some of our elected leaders to listen to that. And I think that'd be exciting because I think you're the future and you're going to make the greatest impact and difference. And I'm speaking to the players. That doesn't mean the coaches can't be heard as well. We want them to answer those questions as well. We want everybody to be listened to because I think that's important. And anybody can opt out, of course. That is not a problem whatsoever. So I got a bunch of buzzes going here. I'm sorry for that, guys. Wish I could turn that down, but I know I'd mess something up on my computer. So all that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jim here in just a second so that he can tell us a little bit on what kind of angle he's going to write the story so that you get a feel for him. He's been a friend of mine for a lot of years, and he does great work for the Star Trib. And so, Jim, if you wouldn't mind unmiking and talk a little bit about the story that you would like to write out of this.
First of all, hey guys, I appreciate you letting me hang out with you here for a little bit tonight. I think that when I talked to Coach Lasso last week, this seemed like a really, really important story. He had talked about getting the voices out of particularly of the athletes and the players, and that there are a lot of kids feeling a lot of things right now and they don't really have a platform. And I thought that this is a fantastic avenue to do that. And I appreciate you allowing me to be here. What I'm hoping to get is your candid thoughts on what really happened last week and how you feel about what went down last week on both the South Side and the North Side. Trust me, I'm not going to do anything that would make you look bad. I'm not going to do anything that you feel is questionable. Anything you say, you can feel free to say whatever you want here, particularly players. If you have anything you want to say, any feelings you want, if maybe you wanted to be involved in the protests or you were involved in the protests last week, that's fantastic. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear your reasons why. I mean, is it possible that you wanted to be involved, you wanted to make a statement? It is also possible that maybe you've been cooped up in the house for a long time. It was a chance to get out and really just, get out and be among people again for a while. So whatever your reasons for being involved, I'd really like to know that as well. And again, my plan is just to let people see what was going on, what people were thinking, what people were feeling at a time when it was pretty high stress situation last week. And so again, thank you for allowing me to join you here. I'm not sure exactly when the story would run. I had actually had plans to run something last week, but we had some editors that wanted to hold it and try to develop a little bit more, which is why I'm joining you on this call. So again, thanks a lot. I look forward to hearing everything you have to say. And I'll just kind of sit in the background from here on in and let you guys take it from here.
Thanks, Jim. So what I'm going to do is I'll call on a head coach from the program. We'll give everybody an opportunity. Once I do that, then that head coach will call on his players. So that way everybody gets called on. If somebody is forgotten, please, shout out. Let's make sure everybody gets spoken. And one last thing, with your language, if you're speaking from emotion, speak as you so choose. If you're speaking so that you want to be cool or be heard in a different light or whatever, think about that. Because if we have the opportunity to put this out there for even more to hear you, you're more apt to be listened if you use proper language. And so, but I'm not going to curb your tongue. I mean, I'm not. And so I'm just saying that because as we move forward, we want to educate you how to best to use your voice. And I got to be honest with you, you're probably more likely to be heard if you speak emotionally, but actually within check where people will listen. So that being said, I'm going to go over to Coach Galindo. And Galindo, you can unmute, and the floor is yours and your players right now.
All right, thanks, Coach Lasso, and again, thanks to you and Coach Mr. Paulson. OA, I want to give you a shout out too, man. And I know you've been out at that front line holding it down for our city. And those of you who don't know, players who aren't part of the North program, always a staple in the North community and also a North police officer. So thank you. And also I want to give a shout out to all of you young men and coaches as well, but mainly you young men for showing your resiliency in this time. This is emotional time, and a lot of your coaches are from the neighborhoods. Some of us, I live right on Lake Street. I was, I'm not doing OA's job, but I was right in the mix, and a lot of you guys are as well. So I want to thank you for your resiliency and to agreeing to this, because this is a big thing. And it is an emotional thing. We've had some talks on my team. I'm sure all of you have as well. My players came up to me kind of a couple weeks ago, me and Coach Bird and all my other coaching staff, and really kind of that's why I chose these three young men. They were the most vocal to me right away in saying that this is something that needs to be talked about within our football family, but not just that. And they wanted to really make sure that this isn't something that just gets swept under the rug when the season starts. And I'm sure many of you have that same feeling because it's a very important topic. So I'm going to let my players go. I'll start out with you, John Lyman, and go ahead and unmute yourself. And then when you're done, just go ahead and let me know. And then I'm going to pass it on to the next guy.
Thank you, Coach. So the first question that I heard was, how am I feeling? And honestly, I have two emotions right now. It's angry and I'm sad. I'm angry that it took so long to, see what was really happening even today with, all the racist stuff that's still going on. I mean, we are still such a segregated city, whether you see it or not. I mean, that's still a big thing. And I'm also saddened that, we still are one of the most segregated states in the nation. That's sickening to me. That, that makes me really mad that, we might not see it because people try to hide it, but once you get through that little patch of, or that little wall that people are trying to hide it, you see what's truly happening in the city. And it's something that needs to stop. And I think what is going on right now with the protests, it's great. It spread all across the nation, and it's finally putting some pressure on powerful leaders, because one state can protest for a while, but with all 50 states, it's putting pressure on not only local governments but our government, the national government. And it's empowering. It's something that shows that we do have a voice in our community. And that's something that, I'm proud to say that I was a part of, that I said I could have my friends and have my family's backs and be there for them in the time of need. Because I have a lot of friends that do live close to there, a lot of friends that are at the protest because they want their voices heard. And I'm not going to sit back and just, say, oh, it's not my problem. It is my problem. I live in the community. I want to be there for them. I want to help them in any way they can, whether that's donations or protesting or any way. That's something that I feel is important. And then things that I think that need to be changed is we need to find the stem and the root of the problem. And that is, the police system, and how they come up and how they become policemen. I think it's almost embarrassing that it takes so little training for a policeman to become a policeman. There needs to be way more steps to become a policeman. Like, they need to have a psych evaluation, make sure they're okay, make sure they don't have any racist backgrounds, make sure, they need a lot of hours, they need years of training, they need to understand the community they are serving. We can't have people that are coming from the suburbs to come into Minneapolis and start serving our community, because they don't understand what's going on in our community. We do. And I think that's a huge thing that needs to be changed. It's a big part of the system. And another thing that needs to be changed is the way we teach about racism in the past and in the present. Because in school, we briefly talk about it and they tread water on it, but we can't be treading water on this subject anymore, because that hasn't done anything. We need to dive deep into the subject of racism in our community and in our nation, because the more we learn about it and the more we understand that what has happened, it'll help us in the long run. And a big thing too is segregation isn't just like houses and where you are. It's schools too. If you look around in your school, I mean, you look at the harder classes, the IB, the AP classes, it's a segregated class. It's majority white. That needs to stop. There needs to be a change. It starts on small grounds and we move up. Once we can start changing this, we could have better values and values. We can just start doing better things. And I'm so happy that, this whole thing is blown up, because it's something that's needed to happen. Change in our community, change in the society, everything. The norms have to go. That's not a thing anymore. We need to change pretty much everything that's going around. And that's the beauty of football too. You don't have racial problems in a locker room, because all of the guys there to win are there to win games. We don't have that problem in football, but in the community we do, and that needs to change. All right, Coach G, I'm finished.
Thank you, John. Jamar?
I feel like the current events, I'm kind of like happy a little bit, because like people are finally realizing like what's going on in the world and like what we need to do to fix stuff, and like how like we can make a change. And what else I think is a change is like how we look at stuff, and how like Black males are like getting looked at in the world today. Cause like it's not fair how we should go out every day on our mind thinking like, you know, being scared of police officer, they supposed to be here to protect and serve us, but we're feeling like we're not being protected and served because we're dying and we're getting killed and stuff like that. And that's all I gotta say.
All right. Thanks, Jamar. Niall?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, like, when it first happened, I mean, like, the first thing I felt was, like, it's one thing when you see stuff like that, like, you see it on the news and stuff in other cities in the U.S., you know, but, like, when it happens a couple blocks from your house and, like, somewhere you go by all the time, like, it feels, like, so much more real to you, you know, like, it feels like that does happen, like, it's, like, real life. So I think sometimes when it's in the media, it's, like, kind of dull to all of us because, you know, they just kind of go over it, like, you weren't there, you like, you know what I mean? And so like, it was really hard at first to be like, it like felt really real. But I mean, Jamar touched on this too, like to see the community come together like that and to see this start here in our city and spread all over the US, like you get a good feeling from that too. So I mean, and like the question based on like, what do you want to change? I think that's a really, like, where does change start? Like, it's a really hard question to answer. Like, this problem is like rooted like far deeper than the police department, schools. Like it's a deep rooted problem, and like it's hard to ask where do you start with that. So like the best way I can answer that, I think it just starts with like, it starts with compassion. Like as someone that's white, like I think sometimes we lose vision that how we go through our life every day and like how we walk through society and are viewed by society is not the same for everyone. And I think it's sometimes hard to realize that. So I think it starts with compassion and trying to look from someone else's point of view. I think if everybody does that, we start to get a little better and things can start to change. And then the last question, what I'm scared of, and me and my teammates talked about this. The biggest thing we're scared of is like, we don't want this to just be like a thing that happens for a month and then goes away and everybody forgets about it. Like that's the worst thing that could happen. Like this, I think we need to remember this and really learn from it and keep going forward. And all the protests and all that stuff that's been happening in the past few weeks, that's got to keep happening for months and forever until we get the change that we deserve and like we get the change that we need in this country and everywhere. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Now, Coach Bird.
Like a lot of you, growing up in the community, it's one of those, I feel I'm all over the map. I feel joy that the spotlight has been shown on a problem that's been going on for as long as we can remember. I feel sad that it's the same problem. I mean, we keep talking about, you change the name, you change the face, but the problem is still the same. It's still African-American people, whether they be male or female, are hunted. The demographic has changed. First, they were younger. They were 18 to 22. And then all of a sudden they were 22 to 27. And now we see they're in their 40s. So it's just when you think you've passed it and you've survived, you really haven't. The change that I like to see happen is just not to have, I don't understand why conversations around the dinner table need to be different because of what you look like. I have to have conversations with my son that are different from other people that they have with their son because of what he looks like. He can't go out with his friends and be a kid because when he's a kid, we know what kids do. And then when we see authority, we know what authority are going to do to kids and what he looks like. So I would like to have a different conversation. And then my fear is that I had this talk with some other people. Is that I don't want to have a defeatist attitude. I don't. I want to feel like things are going to change. However, my lived experience tells me that it won't. My lived experience from growing up 48th and Columbus to now tells me we're going to change the name, we're going to change the face, and it won't be long from now when we do that. It might not be here in this city, it might not be, but we're going to talk about it again, and that's scary, because then I don't feel like I'm doing my job as an African American role model to young African American males, saying, hold your head up high and be proud of who you are. I've got to say, you know, Paul Lawrence Dunbar says, we wear the mask. So put the mask on, smile, don't let them see you cry, be strong. And culturally, that is only for certain people. Other people are living life, and that's I'm afraid we won't be able to do that.
All right, thank you, Coach. A couple just emotions, you know, that I'll just kind of put out there. I think all of us coaches agree this is about your students, athletes, and your voice. But I'll just kind of say, since, you know, I'm in that neighborhood, and obviously it affects us all. I'm sad. I'm hurt. I'm hurt for you know, Mr. Floyd's family. I'm sad for them. Sad for all the other families that have had to go through this as well. I'm also sad. You know, I was sad for the city when all that was going down, just because it's a neighborhood thing. But I also understood, you know, there's that kind of double thing of where you understand why it's going on, because it needed attention. It needs attention. Angry as well, because it's another incident, another African American male, another person of color that you know, fell victim to this. I'm angry at the opportunists that kind of saw our city making a stand and then came in and did some other stuff that a lot of them people, from what I'm gathering, weren't Minneapolis people. I'm angry at those people because you know, we're all hurting, but a lot of people came in and took advantage of our city. So I'm angry about that as well. I'm angry that you guys, all you young men, had to go through this and see this happen again. And I'm hopeful that a change will be made. And that's kind of, you know, what I'd like to see happen is some changes made to policies. I'm not an expert on, you know, I think OA can for sure speak to it more, but on the police stuff, and definitely there's something being missed, and I'm hoping that can get, and that's not all, you know, that's not everybody, you know, we've got to be clear on that too. It's not every police officer, but there's some that needs to be different with the training, and I'm afraid that we're going to have to continue to have this conversation within, you know, our communities, within the world, within our country, and that's kind of what I'm afraid of most, is that y'all will have to continue to deal with this, as well as your children and your children's children. So I'm hoping and praying. I'm a person who believes in a certain being, and that's definitely where my thoughts and everything goes as well. So thank you, Coach Lasso.
Thanks, Washburn. Appreciate it. Very well said. Coach Adams of North, I am heading your way. So go ahead and you can call on your players and your coaches and yourself.
I'll go with our quarterback. Go ahead, Zach. You can go kick it off.
All right. So the first question was, how am I feeling? I'm feeling saddened, but I'm also glad. I'm saddened because this is the harsh reality, and this is what we have to continue to go through, and we have to keep seeing happen in not only our community but America. But I'm glad to see people of all races coming together to fight for the same cause. Like, all of us, everybody at protest, it's not just one color, it's people of all races coming out to support. And then the next question was, what do I want to see change? The main thing I want to see is I want to see non-African Americans fighting for our cause, because for years we've been fighting for ourselves, by ourselves, trying to make a change. But what we really need is we need non-Blacks on our side advocating for a change for us. I think that's really the main thing that I would want to see change. And then the last question was, afraid of. Really the only thing I'm afraid of is that the next person to be killed by a police officer or murdered by a police officer could be me or one of my loved ones, one of my family members. So that's really the scariest thing out of all this for me. And that's all I got.
Terrence. You're muted. You're muted, Terrence.
I'm Terrence Kamar, but how I'm feeling about all of this is I'm like angry and I'm like happy that it happened because it's finally bringing some like attention to something that's been going on for so long that everybody's trying to brush up. Not everybody, but most people are trying to brush it off. Look at the questions one more time. What do I want to see change? I kind of want to see like people at higher positions be like African American people, because I feel like people who are like at higher positions in companies and stuff most of the time aren't African Americans, and I feel like it could help us if we have more of our people at higher levels. And then what I'm afraid of, I think I'm just afraid that this is not going to stop now. It's just going to keep going on until something bad happens. And bad could be like a race war. Done.
Let me see. Dominic McMillan. Dominic. Go ahead, Locke. His phone's messed up.
Tom Lockmeyer, assistant football coach at North High School. How am I feeling? Boy, that's a hard question. I think frustrated, and sad. It's been crazy with George Floyd, and to see what happened in South Minneapolis, and then to see what happened on Broadway. And then to see so many people right now who can't even get, other than donations, there's nowhere to even buy food in their neighborhoods. I know in our neighborhood, people have neighbors having to stay up all night and watch out for each other. And I know the same thing is happening in South Minneapolis as well. And just outside people coming into the community. And then for us at North to lose away as an SRO. And I'm not defending the Minneapolis police as a whole organization, but what OA's done for North High School and for the kids at North, and how he loves them and advocates for them, so many of them without dads, who literally look to him as a father, to also have that taken from them within the same week. And so I guess one thing that I would like to see change is people just listen, which I appreciate, Jim Paulson and Lasso and Glindo for making this. Listen, please listen to the kids. Please listen to the community members. I feel like everybody's being so reactionary right now and doing the politically correct thing. Ask the kids, ask the coaches, ask parents what's best. And I think something I'm afraid of is that people are going to continue, and leadership are going to, like Minneapolis Public Schools has done, is continue to make decisions without asking coaches, without asking parents, without asking players. And I just know, and I know all you coaches would echo this, these boys need time together, and they need time with men who love them and will support them and walk through this stuff with them. I'll never forget when Philando Castile was murdered a couple years ago, and we shut down practice. And OA's dad, who's like a 30-year Minneapolis police vet, talked to the kids about what they should do when they're pulled over. And he talked about his own experience as a black man dealing with racist police, and that's why he wanted to become a cop. And I'm scared if we continue to keep kids and players away from coaches, we're going to lose some of this valuable time when we need to walk through this stuff together. I know that was probably over 5 minutes, but I'll stop now.
I don't know. I can't follow that. That's why I love Lockemeyer. And I want you kids to, get off your phones for a second. I want y'all to kind of look at and see what I'm going. Put me on speaker view because I'm gonna shoot it to you straight. This shit is not a game, man. It's not. This is real life right now. I'm torn. I'm torn in between. You see the color of my skin. You guys know what I do. I am in probably the worst possible position anybody could be in. I'm from the north side. I rep the north side, but I wear blue. My daddy's a cop. My uncle's a cop. But under no circumstance at any point did I feel that what was going on was justified. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind. I've seen everything everybody else seen. And I have feelings too. Sometimes people don't understand that the uniform comes off. I do take the uniform off. And a lot of times I'm taking it off to be with you guys. And one thing that I did that was different with our team was I literally had to call them, and Coach Locke was there. I literally called them before I went, and it was pretty much telling them goodbye. Because I didn't, you know why? Because I had no clue if I was going to even come back home. When I mean come back home, like I'm talking about going fires to fires, getting shot at, stuff thrown at me. And all I'm thinking about is them Polar Pride boys. Can I get back to them? So I was telling them, hey, I love y'all, man. I don't know if I'll be back because I'm going into the trenches. And I'm in the trenches with ashes and soot all over my uniform to protect y'all and give y'all the right to do what y'all want to do because of what somebody that I work with, what they did. So it's tough for me. And then get just another part of my heart just ripped out of me. Not because of what I did, but what somebody else did. But I'll figure it out. So you guys got to understand that this is about all of us being together. I don't got to say anything. I don't got to prove to anybody how I feel about anything, because if you question how I feel about y'all or my community or whatever, then y'all don't know me, man. God bless, Coach Lasso, Galindo, Adam, Josh, all the coaches, even our Coach Johnson from Edison. God bless y'all brothers, man. Y'all my brothers, man, and y'all always checking up on me, and I get it. We all in a tough position. But I know I didn't answer all the questions. I kind of just echo what Coach Locke said. I'm afraid that the connections that we've made and the progress that we made all together is going to be tarnished by what's going on now. And that throws away all the work that we've done for all these years. And, that's about how I feel about that. But I love all of y'all. I'm just letting y'all know, man, this, it ain't a game, man. It ain't a game. And my life has been ruined. My family has been ruined because of all of this. I want to let you guys know I feel all of y'all, and we're just going to continue to day by day.
Thanks, Coach Adams. Thank you, North High. Extremely well said. So I'm not following that. I'm going with Coach Flanders over there at Roosevelt. I'll throw them under the bus. There we go. So Coach Flanders, Roosevelt.
Great. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that one. Adam Flanders, head football coach, Roosevelt High School. First and foremost, to every black and brown male on this screen, I need to apologize. On the sake of being a white male, I want to apologize to you all from face to face, sincerely, for what white privilege has gone on and has done for over 400 years. I want to give you my apology, sincerely. Secondly, after that, I got to give a shout out to OA, man. OA, I hear you, I see you, I love you, brother. I'm with you, and let's make something happen with that, man. This ain't over. And then before I send it over to my couple of my players that I got on here, I want to thank Coach Galindo for getting this moving, Coach Lasso for organizing this, and Jim Paulson for being on here and hearing us and trying to make something happen to this. So after having said that, I'm going to pass it on to my man, Mr. Jesus Moreno.
Well, my name is Jesus Moreno. I just want to, first of all, give a shout out to my old coaches, Coach Galindo and Coach Bird, my old teammates, Jamal, Niall, and I mean, it's just that right now the things that I'm feeling is kind of like, it's anger, happiness, and kind of like afraid a little bit because happiness that people are uniting and seeing like around the country, everyone is getting together and trying to like making change, and I think it's working. Mad that a bunch of people not from our community are coming in and taking advantage of our or everything that is happening for their advantage. I mean, who would have thought that people from our community will start destroying our local communities and stores? Like I know a lot of people from Lake Street, all of them business all getting ruined, looted and stuff. I mean, it's like things that I wouldn't never like think of our community doing to itself. And I guess that me wanting to go to protest, but I couldn't because my family needed me here in the house because they were also afraid that people outside of our community were trying to hurt our neighborhood. So it's just things that kind of build in one another to break our life basically. Our all of these things that are happening, all the racism I see in the streets, all the racism I see online and social media, and all those things like it's just crazy to see all of this still happening after all the other events we've seen in the past. Just it's like people don't listen or don't even like pay attention to the past and learning from it. Like I always learn from my mistakes in the past and try to make a better person of myself. That's what I got learn. I learned from Washburn, and he's gonna shout out back to them because I mean I love you guys a lot. Also, I mean, what I want to be changed is the way we see each other and the way we try to like work with. I want to see the policemen being better at their jobs and not take their own beliefs and their own opinions on their work ethic. And kind of like, as I'm not saying that all the police are bad, but like I mean people should like at least talk about this every day and not just now. Also want to be changed that we don't have to protest or we have to show the government what's the right thing to do. you know I don't want to see this happening ever again and having my family fear something bad's going to happen to them because of something that someone did. And that's it.
Well done, Jesus. Thank you, brother. All right, Salim, you up.
All right. So how do I feel? I feel angry, sad, and a bit of joy. I feel angry and sad because this is just another one that's happened over the last decade and probably even longer. We've had victims after victim after victim of African American males and women being killed by cops. And I'm feeling a little bit of joy because there's finally the actual national conversation and global conversation about trying to end actual police brutality and systemic racism. What I significantly want to change is for people to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations about race, that we are able to sit down and have a chat and explain our roles and our sides and let other people see our point of view. And I also want systemic police reform where there's just going to be, because the police have kind of been built off racism. The earliest form of law enforcement in the South was slave patrols. Then it turned into, after the slavery ended, then unfortunately turned to law enforcement that enforced Jim Crow laws, segregation, and then after that they forced a war on drugs. And ever since then, Black people just been more how do I say it? They have been obviously more violence have been used on black men by police, and there just has to be a huge change from the top down, bottom up, just all the way. And what I'm afraid of is that this will just be another black man that was killed for no reason, and this will go silent in a month, and we will see no change from the government or from anyone else. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Salim. Thank you, Jesus. Appreciate you fellas, man, being here. And appreciate all the young high school men being here tonight, man. Really outstanding, you guys standing out and coming out and being part of this conversation, and really looking out for your community and the history of our humanity, honestly. You know, when I reflect on how I'm feeling, I gotta say I'm feeling pretty privileged. You know what I mean? I know I grew up right off the East Side, Lake Street, right off of 39th, right where honestly, it looks like damn near Babe Ruth from the 80s, from when I grew up, from what I remember. But you know, I live in Bloomington now, and got my family out there, and you know, I definitely do my daily duty of coming inside, and I actually walked to 38th in Chicago one day with Salim and another player of ours, and you know, just trying to come in and really see and feel it, you know, and feel it, see it and feel it, and really try to be a part of it, even though I don't live there anymore. But you know, so I got to say that I'm also feeling, you know, pretty ashamed, you know, being a white man and just this continuing and this going on after hundreds of years. And again, I just want to say I'm sorry, and I want you all to know that I'm not just not racist, but I'm also anti-racist, and I do what I can do, and I've taught my daughters to know better as well. We need to change the system. We need to change from the top down, and we need to find a way to make equity a real thing, not just in Minneapolis, but in our country. Because it's not just a dream, it can be real. And the youth that are on this call right now, y'all are the ones that are gonna make this shit happen. Do it. Lead us. Lead us. What I'm afraid of is I'm afraid that nothing's gonna change. I'm afraid that it's gonna be like that for the Rodney King riots that I lived through when I was in high school, like Coach G lived through, like he was in high school, like many of us did when we were in high school. We saw it. We lived through it. We protested then too. That's what I'm afraid of. Again, Coach G, thank you, brother. Thank you, Coach Lasso. Thank you, fellas.
Thanks, Coach Flanders. Roosevelt, excellent job. Southwest, Coach Z, we're going down to you, brother. I try to say your last name, Coach Z, but I'd botch it way too bad.
It's got a silent C in it, so it's Zoha. Nobody ever says it right. It's all right. Z works too. That was my nickname all through high school. I'm going to start with Dre.
Hello, my name's Keandre. Let me go look at the question. First question, how I feeling? I feel pretty sad and mad. Because sad for like he had to lose his life, and that's sad. And I'm mad because I don't think this will stop. So just gonna be mad. And what I want to see change, I would say I want to see. I don't want this to like blow over again. This happens way too often. To get blown over again. So I'll probably see. I want to see that change. And last question. Sorry. What I'm afraid of is kind of what Zach said. I'm afraid of it happening to me. I don't want to be the next victim. I go outside way too often, and it's tough. I mean, like, I'm a black male. I don't want that to happen to me. That's it, bro.
All right, Marcus, you got Nick with you too there?
Yeah. You want us to go at the same time or like go off each other? All right, so what I'm feeling pretty much, I'm sad and at the same time mad and a little happy. Like, I didn't want all this to happen, but at the same time I'm glad everyone's getting together to see a little bit of change. You?
Well, I feel like it's harder for, as white people, like, we don't really know like what it feels like to be driving and then have a cop pull us over and like be scared for our lives. But I think I hope a lot of people do their best to empathize, to try to begin to understand how like the people that we spend all of our season with, and our brothers in the locker room feel like on a daily basis almost. And I'm sad that George Floyd had to die for it to spark this much change. Yeah.
And then the next question was, what do I want to see change? Well, what I want to see change is people that aren't exactly racist, but like white people that aren't exactly racist, I want to see them step up and like join us and, say what they believe in, And what about you?
I'm glad that with all this stuff going down, I see all my friends on Instagram, Snapchat, they're all starting to helping out in the community, donating, picking up groceries, and trying to give it to the people that are in need right now, posting stuff for awareness all the time, just doing their best to do what they can, go to the protests. And I'm glad that I'm seeing that. But at the same time, I want to see just more people from not even the Minneapolis area, more people from like around the state have more like realize what's going on right now. Like people from the suburbs, the white people out there that are a little bit more insensitive to what's going on. I want to see them, kind of step into the movement and be on the side of Black Lives Matter.
Also, I want to see more people of like older age step up. Like a lot of the protests, I've seen a lot of people of youth, like our age. I want to see older people step up. And then for the last question, what am I scared of or afraid of? Kind of like Keandra said, I don't forget who said it, but I don't want this to like blow over. I don't want this to be like in a couple months, everything will be all back to normal. And then another black man gets killed, and then what? Then we're back to square one. Like, I don't want that. I want this to change.
I'm scared that the next time it could be someone we know. If something doesn't change, I'm scared that something won't change, because if it doesn't, I mean, stuff like this is just going to keep happening. And obviously there needs to be a complete revamp of the whole system, the justice system that we have in this country.
Back to you, Zoe.
All right, Darnell.
All right, well, I'm feeling frustrated because I just feel like black people haven't been heard for as many times as this has happened. A police officer killing a black person unarmed and totally, they have the control of the situation. There was four cops there versus one male. And I don't think that should have happened like that. And like we've had whole protests and situation. We had a Black Lives Matter, protest and a whole little thing where everybody participated in a few years ago, and it just like blew over. Like I just see signs now. I never hear anybody talk about it. It's just Black Lives Matter, but like, do they really matter? Because like I just feel like this shouldn't keep happening if they matter. And now I'm just feeling like Black lives don't matter, and I want to see more people step up and say something about it. That's what I want to see change. As one of the kids from North said, other people that aren't black, like more racists, step up and say something for black people, because we've been fighting for ourselves since it started, since slavery. We've been fighting for ourselves, and something needs to change, or it'll keep happening. Like, and I'm black and I'm still 16, so I still got to be in the world. And I'm scared that it could be me or somebody I love, one of my brothers or anybody else. It's sad that it keeps happening. And it takes all of this to make people say something or step up, or for us to be heard like this. Like, I just don't know what it'll take to change. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Darnell. Coach French?
All right, here we go. I'd like to just say a couple of names real quick. George Floyd, Philando Castile, Jamal Clark, Abuka Sanders, Lawrence Miles, Tysel Nelson. Those are all names of brothers who have passed away at the hands of the MPD at different times in our lives. Abuka Sanders was a friend of mine. Lawrence Miles was an 11-year-old child that got shot in the back by a gauge from a cop who raided the wrong house. Tysel Nelson was a teenager when I was just growing up over north. Watching my city burn live in the face of the world, watching the marching, protesting, looting, my feelings range from being disappointed to prideful to anger and to guilt. I was disappointed and sad at the destruction of my city, neighborhoods, and communities, and how much everybody done suffered. I got pride in the youth because I've seen guys that I've coached since they were little at Phelps and at McCray Park. I've seen them guys out there leading, being a part of the protests. I'm angry by the MPD and a behavior that has for far too long been commonplace, and the complicit nature of all the leadership for the years of their response and of how it's crippled our lives and how we live. I have an overwhelming feeling of guilt because I can't be as involved as I used to be. I marched for Abuka. I marched for Lawrence Miles, for Tysel, Andre Addison. I mean, we march and march and march. I got miles on the bottom of my soles for all that. But there's something to be said about these group of men this year and this instance. Leadership is funny. We don't choose who leads all the time. And sometimes leadership can be inherited, but many times leadership defers to the moment. And in those moments, we find leaders rising to the occasion in places we wouldn't have thought or seen them in. What am I afraid of? Well, there's hope in the air, and that scares me. Because hope has been an opiate of our people. We get all riled into hope and feeling like hope is the answer, and we cling on to hope and always hoping we get somebody charged for the crime, hoping that they get convicted, hoping that the guy who just put his knee on his neck, we hope that they actually say something. Maybe the guys get fired. I'm tired of hope. The feeling is all too familiar. Hope tends to let our guard down until another black man, woman, or child is murdered. It will stop when we, the people, have had enough to the point we no longer react, that we take action and we plan and organize, preemptive planning. Plan and organize beforehand. Be ready, not just reacting to injustice and all of its cohorts. Time is now, and time is running short. And as all you coaches know, Father Time always wins. And we're doing this all in the backdrop of COVID-19. It's hard to believe. So to the youth, to my players, I thank you guys for speaking. For Galindo, Paulson, Lasso, thank you for spearheading something like this. OA, I know you, brother. I know how you feel about us, about our neighborhood. I'm a 10th and Newton, 16th and Sheridan kid. I got robbed. I got robbed at Willard Park with a 38 and a 9 in my neck. And when nobody there, it's me. I know what it's like growing up like this. So I want to tell all you young dudes out there, thank you for being up here and having your voice heard. You guys are my heroes. I want you to continue to stand for what you believe in, stand up for what is right, and demand justice that is long overdue and nothing less. No concessions, no meeting in the middle. They need to stop killing black men, women, and children right now. We might not ever get a chance like we have it right now in this moment.
I knew I should have spoke before French. Um, we call him Reverend when he goes in to give speeches before games. Get the Reverend going. I think my job here is to listen to men like in my life, like Mr. French here. People listen to men like OA. Support as best I can my kids. Support my brothers that are here with us. And then be an ally as best I can and do whatever I can for the community. My players, yeah, I'm here for you. Anybody else needs to reach out, I'll do whatever I can for my kids. My heart goes out to OA. My heart goes out to the city. My heart goes out to all you kids. And like everybody said on here, I appreciate everyone stepping up, speak out for your community, to be a leader. I got crushed last Sunday. A parent sent me a picture of one of my pet players protesting and is holding the sign and it said, "Am I next?" And it crushed me. So, like I said, my heart goes out to everybody. I appreciate everybody that got this together. I'm here to listen.
All right. I guess we'll go next. I just want to double check if Henry or Edison is represented right now. I don't think so, because I've kind of gone through all the names on my screen, but I said we'd be kind to Minneapolis, but I have a Minneapolis computer and this one really sucks. I just want to say that. Okay, there we go. That's the worst I'll get. All right, towards Minneapolis. There we go. And even the IT guys told me that's how sad it is. All right, Canary, you're on from Minneapolis South High School.
All right. Well, right now I'm just feeling disappointed, angry, and a bit hopeful, I guess. It was terrible to see George Floyd murdered, and it hit even harder because it was in our community. We've seen cases like this in Baltimore or in other states, and it doesn't hit as hard, but now that it happened right in our community, and for me, just 10 minutes away, made it even more hurtful and even more scary to know that those cops are just roaming around our communities. I'm hopeful because I feel that the spark from this case is bringing people together, and not just people of color, but people of all races. And I'd like to see that continue to happen. And I think that there's some people out there saying that, like, right now change is happening, and I don't see change is not currently happening right now. I think that what we're doing with these protests is being a voice for all people, so for the government to hear and for people of power. And I'd like to see people of power really implement what they feel and help the system change, the police system, so that no more black males are being murdered. And I'm fearful that there will be another black man murdered next month, because there will be just another cop out there who chooses to kill him because he's afraid that, or he's frightened by him due to his skin color, and that this will continue to happen, and that the protesting and voices of the people right now will start to quiet down as time goes on, but only time will tell. So I'm confident that change will happen. Yeah, that's it. That's it for me also.
Thanks, Kader. I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Avery.
Hi there. Right now I'm feeling really angry, sad, see all this go around, especially since it's so close to home, just at 38th in Chicago, where it happened, where I've been so many times. It just hurts to see this happen, because it happens everywhere else, and it's just crazy to see how everything has played out, all the riots and protesting. But it's also like inspiring to see because how everybody's like coming together and there's like unity to fight for one goal. And that's one thing that gives me hope because I haven't like seen this like firsthand experience anywhere. So it's good to see. And then the next question, what do you want to change? I want systematic police reforms, like new training and everything, so they know how to like handle situations better, and just like change like the whole system because it's all corrupt. And it's just crazy to think how in school like we're taught like learn like about history so like you can change it later, don't repeat the same mistakes. Well, 400 years later, we're still making the same mistakes, and it's just mind-boggling to me like how like we still can't like get past this, and just like how it's so like relevant and like racism is like so like just like out there today, and like so many people are just like ignorant and like don't believe it, and that's not gonna help us change. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of that this situation won't go away. I mean, like maybe in like a month or two, people will start quieting down, and they'll just forget about it, or not forget, but they won't speak up anymore. We'll lose like the momentum like we have now to like spark some real change. Because right now is like a very like critical time where we can actually do something about it. And I don't want them like this movement or like just like this tension right here just to go away and people just like go back to their normal lives.
Thanks, Daniel. One of my coaches, Coach Ernest Sutton.
Thank you, Lasso. I guess, how am I feeling? My biggest fear is that this is over in a moment. You know, OA, you know I love you. I've been with you. I rocked with you for a very long time since I moved back to Minnesota. We're both North High graduates. And to see, I know your heart. And I wish I could stand side by side as you were struggling through these different situations that came about from fire to fire, because I love my community and I love my young people in my community. And I will never associate you with one man's act just because you're blue. I know the change that you have impacted in my life, and I've seen the impact that you made on young people's lives. And, you know, I'm hopeful because of my relationship as a coach. I'm hopeful for my relationship as I sit down and talk day in and day out with Kadir and talking about change, how to make systematic change, how I'm encouraging him, empowering him to be a part of that change and what that looks like. And so that's where my hopefulness comes from. As it relates to, you know, what do I want to see changed? You know, the reality is this. I want to see leaders arise up out of this group, young people, young men. You are the future of Minneapolis. And what I'm saying by that is, regardless if you choose to go to college and get a 4-year degree or not, you know, there's so many different opportunities available to you to make an impact in your community. And realize that. Realize your power. Realize that. You know, you see Coach OA as a police officer, and, you know, stand with him. If, you know, you don't want to go to college, stand with him and become a police officer. You know, be a part of that change. You know, understand the system in which you're working with. You know, embody the compassion that it takes to be a police officer and to work in an urban context. And then what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of my son, who's 7 years old, having to experience the injustices, the heartache and the pain that I have, and seeing no change happen. Young men, you are the future. You are going to bring the change that my son needs. And I beg you, I plead that you will find your avenue, your direction, and that you become to influence the change that Minneapolis needs, whether it's within the police force, whether it's within politics, whether it's within education, that you will be the change that you so desire to see. And I just plead that you young men will answer that call, because, you know, my age, my generation, you know, you are the future, and you will make sure to see this thing through. I love you. I care for all of you. And whenever you see me on the street, wherever you see me in the community, just ask, and I'll be there to support you. Understand that you have a multitude of coaches that love you, that encourage you, that want to see you succeed. And whether it's my network, Lasso's network, Galindo's, OA's, Lockermeyer's, whatever coach that you see amongst this brotherhood, this fellowship, that we want to see you succeed and be the young men that you are called and destined to be.
Thanks, Coach Sutton. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fisher, our athletic director of Minneapolis. I said everybody on the screen is going to get an opportunity to talk. And so if you would like to, we'd love to hear your comments.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity. First and foremost, I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to jump on this call and give perspective. I think it's very important that the blend of our coaches along with our students together, voicing, you know, your opinions and your frustrations, and, you know, you're basically giving your perspective. It speaks volumes. I'd like to answer the three questions, and I sat and kind of thought about, you know, how I would respond to each of the questions. How I'm feeling. I'm feeling pretty motivated. And a part of why I'm feeling motivated is because, you know, as a leader, I feel like I can make change. I feel like I can institute change that will impact not only our coaches, not only our student athletes, but potentially the state of Minnesota and potentially on a national level as well. So that motivation is burning within me to attempt to be that change and consistently be that change. I think one of the things that we as folks of color, because when we look on this screen here, we have an assortment of colors on this screen or on this call. I look at it as, you know, we have to continue to strive to get to those positions of leadership so that we can institute change across the board. Because again, I could probably ask the question, how many of us watched The Last Dance, all 10 episodes? And I'm pretty sure that everybody on here would probably say they either watched all 10 or they watched most of them. Michael Jordan has a voice. Why does Michael Jordan has a voice? Because he changed. He made change within the game of basketball. He was the change. Therefore, now people sit back and they listen. Okay? And so what do I want to see change? I want to see us, not so much the younger folks, I want us to pave the path. Okay? I believe it's, and don't quote me, I believe it's Proverbs 12 verse 22 that basically says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Okay? And we're in a position now where we can help lead the generation behind us to leave their children's children an inheritance. So when you open up a pathway for an athletic director to be the first president of the National Association, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pathway that's open so that, you know, after 50 years of a organization being in existence, in the 21st century, we're saying the first. We need to institute that change or be the change and do what's necessary to get in a position where we can be the change. And then I think, what am I afraid of? I'm truly afraid of us not holding folks accountable. So again, when we have those conversations, and just for the record, I've been approached to lead a diversity panel discussion about the Minnesota Athletic Administrators Association. They reached out to me. I just moved here from Florida. I've been here for 2 years almost. And I promise you that I'm going to institute change so that if any of you are looking to become athletic directors, there won't be any barriers because we will have broken those barriers. And so what I'm afraid of is that accountability piece. If there's no action that takes place after this discussion, I'll be reaching out to the MNI AAA next month saying, hey, what are we doing? What do you need me to do? If there's no change after that, I'll reach out the month after that. What are we doing? What do you need me to do? And I'll be a pain in their side until they decide, you know what, we probably need to do something because this guy's just going to call us every single month. So, you know, I'd also like to go on record as saying, my wife and I, we have these discussions about when we're talking to our white brothers and sisters or, you know, other races, what advice can we give them? And the advice that I would give them, number one, educate yourself. That way you can't say you don't know. So once you know, at that point, now I need you to speak your truth. Because if you speak your truth, at that point, I know what I'm dealing with. And I'd rather have a choice than not have a choice. So having said that, again, those two things were educate yourself. And once you do that, now you know. There is no, well, I didn't know. Now you know. And so once you know, now I'm inviting you to speak your truth. I'm inviting you to tell me exactly how you feel and exactly what your thoughts are about me, period. Or about the situation that happened, period. Or whatever that I'm coming to you about, period. And at that point, I can make a choice. Thank you for the opportunity, Coach.
Mr. Fisher, thank you for those words and thank you for your attendance. As I said earlier, just so that it's clear, Mr. Fisher is our athletic director of Minneapolis. And so I think it's important for you players to know that and understand that. And now you've heard him say he's in your corner. And so what a great opportunity for you to reach out and lean and learn from him as well. I believe we've heard from all the players. Are any players not been heard from? Coaches, can you help me out here? I think everybody's got an opportunity. All right. Well, the only thing you guys have said it really well, but I will answer the three questions because I said everybody on the screen will talk. I guess Jim hasn't answered the three questions though. So Jim, I'm going to, I'll let you go right now. I'd love to hear from you on those three questions as well. And Galinda will take notes and send them to you there. All right, hold on.
Well, it's kind of tough for me to say anything because I grew up on the north side. I think some of you know that. I went to Minneapolis North. But as a white male, I'm watching with fascination and horror and hope at the same time. As a reporter, it's tough for me to talk about this because one of the tenets of good reporting is to not be the story, to observe and report on the story. It's hard to be removed from something that's so personal to everybody. What happens for me, I have just a lot more questions to ask people. I'd like to ask some of the students who spoke here how they felt at the time. Were they angry and to the point of action? One, I think it was Jesus talked about his family being afraid and staying home. I had to kind of know what you're thinking at the time. When you go out, is that something that is on your mind all the time? How are you going to be treated on the streets, or if you're in your car, or if you're walking somewhere, or if you're just minding your own business? Hearing what everybody has to say here is sobering and eye-opening, and there's been plenty of times when I feel like tears welling up in my eyes about this. I feel Mr. Fisher talked about educating yourself, and I'm probably not as educated as I'd like to be. The one other thing I'd like to ask is, you talk about change, you talk about leadership. One thing I look like, what is the real issue here? What is the, how do you make that change? Like when you go outside and someone says, be careful, what does be careful mean? You want change, what does that mean? What are the steps you're going to take? What are the definite steps that you're going to take to make these things happen? It's easy to say things in vague generalities, making specific steps, taking those steps. I'd like to see what those look like. And again, thanks for allowing me to be on this. It's been a very, very eye-opening experience, and and represent it properly when it's written about probably in a couple of days here. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Paulson. I know you had a couple more questions, and then coaches also with your players that are on this screen. I know Mr. Paulson has asked for permission possibly to reach out to them and to call them. So we've been emailing each other, so he has our emails. And so I'm just going to ask that Jim does reach out to you. And so players, you'd have to have your parents' permission if you're under 18. And but by all means, give him the opportunity to maybe ask you those last couple of questions, because I think those are powerful questions as well. You know, for me, how did I feel? It was weird. I was horrified when I saw the video. And then immediately I knew something would happen. I didn't know to the scale of what would happen. And then there was a lot of mixed emotions through it all. For me, it's right immediately I wanted to know, you know, what I could do, and I've been processing what I could do. And when guys like Galindo open up opportunities and just get my brain stirring, and then I think of, okay, we can meet virtually. What can we do virtually? And quite frankly, this, in a weird way, this isn't the greatest way to meet, but it was probably the best way even down the road to meet, to be honest, because all of you got heard, and there was nobody cutting in on you, and what you said was incredible. So I'm processing still. What am I going to do now? How am I going to take my players? And what Mr. Paulson said at the end, what are the steps we're going to make for change? I hear Mr. Fisher, and I know that Mr. Sutton, my coach, said to me, hey, we got to bring some people in. You know, we got to bring Aaron Dondo in. I heard him speak today on television, you know, and we got Owe over there on the north side. You know, who wears the blue, like he said, but he wears a lot of different shirts. And we got Mr. Fisher sitting there. Shoot, let's even look higher. What about a mayor? What about a governor? Let's get them into our programs, because I think the difference is we can say what we want to change, but there's realness. I mean, a 17, 18-year-old, you're not going to be listened to as much as somebody who's out there, who's been educated, as Mr. Fisher said. Unfortunately, whether you like that or not, that will add credit to your voice. But that's us as coaches. I mean, we got to guide you, because I also think the guy that's working 40 hours a week delivering Amazon packages when he hits 21 years old, like my son is doing right now, and making enough to make a living at this moment in time, I think there's ways he can be heard. You know, he writes songs, and he went out there and he wrote a song in this particular situation. So there's avenues and there's ways, and so there's hope. But I'll be honest with you, when I hear Reverend French talk, I do got to admit, I think change is going to take place. I think there's going to be some laws taking place. I think that brings me hope. I do. I really feel that. But I also know that from history, change takes time. And do we have time for change to take place? And that's the profoundness, because if change is starting to happen, but there's still errors along the way, which there will be. I mean, if Mr. Fisher implements a really great policy within our athletic department, I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to take a couple of years probably for it to really catch root and make a difference. And so that's hard because we have to be patient during that, but we have to see to it that it gets done. So those are fears, those are changes, those are all from me, but this was awesome. This is, I think I pictured this, and this is exactly how it went. That doesn't happen very often. So to all you coaches, head coaches out there, you got a huge task ahead of you, because you need to lead, and you need to lead well. I know that, like Coach Z said, you got to listen. But then after you listen, you need to lead, and you need to lead well. These players are here because of you. They are. They are. You went and got them, and they respect you, and a difference can be made. And so I'm excited in that sense, but I'll be honest, the road ahead is going to be very, very, very challenging for all of us. And I haven't even talked 1 ounce of X's and O's. Now you got to mix that in as well with everything else. But isn't it cool that it is a common place at the game of football where we can all gather? I said I grew up in the 1980s going to college at the University of Wisconsin from 83 to 88. And I was the most ignorant human being that there possibly was, because I really didn't know racism existed. I didn't know I was a racist, and I'll be honest with you, I can't stand in front of you and say I don't have racist thoughts. I'd be a fool and I'd be a liar, because there are things that have been taught to me over years. Now, I'm not saying I act out on them. I'm saying they're implanted in my head. I think we all have thoughts that have been implanted in our heads, and I think we'd be fools to say that that's not true. Some of you stated those today about the Minneapolis police and how you're scared of them and things of that nature. But in the 80s, I just thought it was all good. But here's the great thing. It wasn't all good. But it was a place that we could come inside of a locker room and we could play an incredible game, and really, truly listen to each other. And I think those are my fondest moments, are sitting in a locker room and just talking and allowing that conversation to take place. Now let's take it to the next level. Let's start taking steps to change the injustices that are out there. And so I'm done talking. Feel free to unmute. Feel free to exit if you want. Mr. Paulson, I'll be sharing this recording with you. Before you leave, though, go into the chat box if you do not want this put on YouTube. Or go into the chat box and say this has to be put on YouTube. Either way, because that'll give me a greater feel. I don't want this to be about what I want to do, and I'm not looking to capitalize. I'm just looking for you all to be heard, and then hopefully the right people hear it and we start to make change. Be blessed and have a great evening. And coaches, let's play football, but at the same time, when we do, let's bring back getting together before that first game. I don't know how that happens, but let's do that, because I'd love to see these young men in person. And I'm going to make it tempting for all of you to really make it happen. I'm buying, okay? I don't say that very often, but I'll be buying.
Coach,
now you know Lasso's serious.
Yeah, before you go, maybe we can all get another Zoom together for the coaches, because Coach Jason Knighton Johnson from Edison, I've been meeting with him every week, so he's got some ideas. Let's do what we've been doing. I know RG, we got our thing going on each year. Let's just get together on another Zoom and we just kind of talk and kind of get some things together.
I think that's a great idea. I will put that together. Would you like to see that in what proximity of time, Mr. Adams?
Well, I would think just like no different from when we just emailed and just say, hey, man, let's put together a meeting. When is everybody available?
Okay.
And just go from there, and it just be a Zoom and whatever questions we have. Because I know Jason's got a lot of good ideas, and he's got that new energy coming in, and I want to just keep on. I want to keep pumping him up and get things going with him, because we all won, so we all got to get it going.
Okay, let's make that happen before July 4th, then. I'll make sure that I get it going, because that'll still give us some summer left. Yeah, and I know Jason as well, and I know he's got a really great daughter, because my son dates her, so there we go. Hot diggity dog.
Oh, wait, man, I love you, man. I miss you.
All of y'all. I love you too, E.
All right, man.
You guys can sign out whenever you want.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.